Hello, my name is Dorka and I'm an autistic occupational therapist, and I wanted to talk to you today about what it means to be autistic. So when we think about autism, we have to think about our brains. So our brain is a neurotype, which means how our brain is wired. It's how we process information, emotions, and the world around us. So there are two different types of brains. There are neurodivergent brains and neurotypical brains. So neurodivergent brains could be someone who's autistic like me, or have ADHD, dyspraxia, dysgraphia, dyslexia, the list goes on. So anyone who thinks differently is neurodivergent. And then people that are neurotypical see the world like typical society. So autism looks different for everyone, and for me, honestly, I didn't know I was autistic for a long time. I just knew I felt different. So for me, it felt like if I go into a social situation that everyone is speaking a different language and I can't understand it. It takes me a long time to process what people are saying. I don't know when to make eye contact, when to look away. I don't know what to say when someone says something, and I don't know when to laugh. So growing up, I realized that people expected me to act a certain way, so I started to copy them. I started to look at how my friends moved, what they talked about, when they laughed. I practiced facial expressions in the mirror, and I made a list of conversation topics that I could bring up if I felt like I didn't know what to say. So this is called masking, which means it's hiding my autistic traits. So sometimes after school, especially in secondary school, I would be exhausted. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I found it really hard to do anything kind of social after school. And that's because when you're masking, you don't see the real me. You might see someone who's really quiet or shy, and not someone who's really struggling or feeling really anxious. So autistic people can be more sensitive to sensory input. So that could be different textures, fabrics, sound, light, smells, anything in the world around us. So for me, loud noises physically hurt my ears. So when I was in school, and if the classroom was too loud, my brain just felt like it stopped working. I could see that the teacher was talking, but I couldn't process anything she was saying. I was just completely overwhelmed. I used to think that I was too sensitive, but now I know it's called sensory processing differences. That's why I like to wear noise cancelling headphones, or I avoid certain fabrics because I know I hate woolly jumpers on my neck, or I know I need to leave the room when things get overwhelming. I'm not being dramatic, I'm just protecting my brain. So one of the best things about being autistic is having special interests. So this could be something that we're really interested in, and we can think about it, talk about it, learn about it all day, every day. So it could be being really interested in Barbies and wanting to watch Barbie movies and play with Barbies. It could be being really interested in space and having space shuttles and learning all about NASA. It could be being interested in different times in history, so it could be World War II. It could be being really interested in Disney and learning all about the Disney princesses and watching all the movies, or being really interested in like Lilo and Stitch. So special interests make my life exciting. They're my safe space, my escape when the world feels too much. And sometimes they can even help me make friends because I find people that have the same interests as me. Speaking of friends, it can be really tricky to make friends when we're autistic. We might not know how to go up and start a friendship, or if you see someone, you might not know what to say to them or ask them questions, or if they're talking about something that you're not interested in, it can be really hard to know how to keep the conversation going. I also show my friendship in ways that aren't always as obvious. So instead of saying, oh, we're best friends, I might remember what your favorite snack is. So say if it's like Maltesers, I might bring that in and give that to my friend. And that's showing that, for me, that's showing that I'm your friend. So if you've ever had an autistic friend, just know we might not always express things the same way, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to be your friend. So So school was sometimes really tricky for me, and it's not because I didn't like learning. I actually loved it. It was all the sensory input and the social expectations in school. So when we had group projects or classwork, I remember like the whole class would get so noisy and it was so hard to think. If there was sudden changes, so say if my teacher was out sick for the day and we had a substitute, or if the weather was bad and we couldn't get out for our breaks, that really panicked me. Or if I was called on when I wasn't expecting it, my brain would freeze and I just couldn't get my words out even if I knew the answer. And some days I'd hit a wall and I'd go from doing okay and coping well to not coping at all. I felt like my body was so tired. I moved really slowly, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't focus. That's called autistic burnout. And when that happens, when I've pushed myself too hard to keep up with a world that wasn't designed for autistic brains. That's why accommodations help. So extra time to process things, quiet spaces, being taken out on movement breaks, or using fidgets while we're sitting down. And these all support me to access education and be happy in school. So being autistic can be hard. There are days when I feel overwhelmed, misunderstood, and exhausted from trying to navigate a world that wasn't designed for my brain. But I love being autistic. Being autistic means that we have so many strengths. We are deep thinkers. If someone tells us something, we don't just accept it. We will analyze it, question it, and we will find the details that you have missed. We are so passionate. When we love something, we really love it. We will dive deep and learn everything there is to know about what we love. And then we will share that with so much enthusiasm and excitement that I'm sure you will also love our special interests. We are honest and authentic. We mean what we say and we say what we mean. We're not interested in any fake social games. We care about real connections, real people, and real conversations. We have an incredible attention to detail. We notice patterns, small changes, and things that are often overlooked. This makes us great at creative work, science, and problem solving, and even just being a good friend who remembers the little things. We are resilient. The world isn't easy for autistic people, but we keep going. We adapt, we learn, and we find our own way of doing things, even when others doubt us. So if you're autistic, or if you know someone who is, remember, autism isn't just a challenge, it's a different way of experiencing the world. One that brings strength, creativity, and a unique perspective, and that is something to be so proud of.